Well, yesterday, Oklahomans all across the metro turned out to the polls to vote in a number of on different items and races here, including the Oklahoma City mayoral race. We have a winner. You may recognize this guy, newly reelected Mayor David Holt. Welcome to the show, Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning.
First of all, congratulations. Tell us how you feeling.
Thank you. No, I feel great.
Okay,
Obviously, tremendous validation. I think the most kind of shocking part of it was the turnout. You know, we hoped for good turnout. We would have defined good turnout as more in line with recent mayoral elections where there was a little bit of competition. But to have the most voters come out since 1959, and by the way, the historical reason for 1959 was that it was the same day as the Prohibition vote. So there was a big turnout that day.
Yep.
But since then, the record had been 54,000, and we had 60,000 voters come out. So for that many people to come out in Oklahoma City and to have such a strong showing for our message, obviously, is very validating, very gratifying, and it was a great night.
What does that signal to you, that more people showed up?
I think it was a response, probably, hopefully, to our message. I think candidly, it was a response as well to what was being articulated by some of the other candidates. I think people in Oklahoma City wanted to strongly reject those messages, that partisanship, that bigotry that was coming from the other campaigns, and really validate all that we've done in Oklahoma City. I mean, I was the only candidate who supported MAPS. I was the only candidate who stood for public health. I mean, I think a lot of people wanted to say that those are the things that they prioritize in their mayor. And oftentimes in the past, I don't know that we've even had to talk about the unifying and nonpartisan nature of the office, but this time we definitely did. And I think people were also validating that. They were like, yeah, we want a mayor who brings people together, and we want to be counted on that question.
So, I mean, you won with more than 60% of the vote, the majority here, of course. But for the people who didn't vote for you this morning, do you have a message for them or something you want to tell them?
Well, of course, there's always room in what we're doing here in Oklahoma City for everybody. And, you know, some of the other candidates ran on very specific, narrow platforms about things that had happened during the pandemic, you know, a year ago. Well, that's all in the past now, you know. And not the pandemic necessarily, but those things that were done at certain phases are, you know, we're not going back to once in a century, you know, actions, especially now that we have a widely available vaccine. So, you know, I think that those arguments are now settled. And obviously the vast majority of people in Oklahoma City feel a different way. And now it's time to move on. And there's so many things we need to work on together, whether it's core services, whether it's quality of life through MAPS, you know, core services like police and fire and streets. And I'm sure we have common ground with even more people than those who voted with me yesterday on those topics. So let's move forward into the future and work on those things together.
Let's talk about the future. I know it's day one of the new term here, but I'm sure you
well,
have.
Not quite. Actually, April is when
I forgot. Okay, yes. So we're still in the old term.
Still in the old term
at this point. Okay, but goals. I mean, I know you still have them. Thinking about them. Let's line up some top priorities, kind of looking ahead here.
Well, you know, as I said in the campaign, I mean, the first thing that's always a mayor's top priority is simply the core services, as I just alluded to. Police, fire, streets, transit, everything else. And we've got a lot of projects coming in all of those areas. You know, the voters committed a few years ago to $800 million for streets. We're trying to fill 120 new police officer positions as well as firefighter positions. So, you know, implementing all that is a big part of the next 4 years. Obviously, MAPS 4 is now moving into a much more higher profile phase. And you know, that was on the line in this election because other candidates said they were going to end MAPS. And so, you know, now we're not going to end MAPS and we're going to move forward and we're going to implement MAPS 4. And this year we'll see the first groundbreakings for some of the projects. So that's exciting and something that certainly requires mayoral attention. I think there'll also be important conversations about transit. You know, that didn't come up as much in this election, but we've been working on a regional transit authority that includes Edmond, Norman, Moore, Del City. I mean, I think that's something that you're going to see rise in the public consciousness in the next few years. I'd still like to lead a community conversation about public education, even though that, you know, the mayors don't run the schools, and I'm very clear about that, you know, but I think I have a unique role in being able to convene a lot of people around a vision for public education, similar to what longtime residents may remember with MAPS for Kids 20 years ago. Those are some of the things I see rising in the next 4 years. I also fully recognize that there's a lot of unknown unknowns when you're in this job. And I certainly, sitting here 4 years ago, didn't think I would preside over a global pandemic.
Yeah, you read my mind on that one.
Or the most significant racial reckoning since the 1960s. You know, So who knows what challenges lie ahead? Also, who knows what opportunities lie ahead? As America's 22nd largest city, we're getting all these opportunities now that we didn't used to see. So you need somebody in this office who can seize those opportunities, who can meet those challenges, even though we don't know today what they are. And so I think it's going to be an eventful 4 years. I think it's going to be a fun and exciting 4 years. When I look at all that's happened over the last 30 years, I truly believe that now we're just now really seeing the payoff for all of those investments. And you're seeing, obviously, people flooding it here. You're seeing investment flooding in here. And I think the number of exciting announcements you're going to see in the next 4 years will be a lot of fun. And I'm glad I get to be the mayor during that time.
Just a time of self-reflection here too, I would imagine. You won the re-election, you're thinking about a next term. Is there anything you would have done differently necessarily on this first term?
I'm very conscientious about not living with regret, I've been at this for so long. I was mayor's chief of staff for 5 years. I was a state senator for 8 years. I've brought a tremendous amount of experience, despite my relative youth, to this position. And so I would say that, I try to anticipate things I would regret and not do them. So no, I don't really have any major regrets. I feel like we've found a great balance on a lot of really sticky issues over the last couple years. And obviously this morning I feel as if the people of Oklahoma City agree.
Do you think that, we talked about the pandemic a little bit and kind of it just being a surprise to all of us, none of us could have anticipated it. Do big challenges and events like that sort of change, what you think that the role of a leader is in this? Has that changed how you lead moving forward, you think?
Not necessarily. I mean, I recognize when you get into these positions that I'm a student of history, and I know that people who have been in, especially in executive roles or in situations where they're the face and the leader of a community, that they oftentimes face, more often than not, challenges that they did not expect. So the one thing I knew was that I didn't know what was going to happen in the next 4 years, and I still feel that way. Mayor Norick had no idea that he was going to face the Oklahoma City bombing. On the other end of the extreme, Mayor Cornett had no idea that he'd have the opportunity to try and recruit an NBA team. So you just don't know. But I kind of knew that going in. Again, experience counts, and all the experience that I brought to this job 4 years ago allowed me to have that perspective. So when something crazy happened like the pandemic, it didn't rattle me. I was like, okay, didn't know this was going to be the subject matter, but I knew that there was going to be something. and let's do this.
All right, we got 4 more years. Mayor Holt, congratulations again.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I know you're tired, so probably a long night.
Just running on adrenaline at this point.
Of course, but we appreciate you taking the time to
pleasure.
come visit us here this morning.